I thought our family heirlooms were safe, until I found the pawnshop tickets in my wife's drawer. What I did next would either save our legacy or destroy our marriage. I never imagined I'd be rifling through my wife's nightstand drawer in search of secrets. But when our twins were down for the night and the house fell silent, a nagging suspicion drove me there. It started innocently enough, a late mortgage notice tucked among our bills, despite my automatic payments. Then came the strange charge on our joint credit card, $450 at Golden Crescent Pawn and Jewelry. I chalked it up to an accident until I saw my wife Mara wince when I mentioned it. Her half-smile didn't reach her eyes. The next evening, I found the pawn tickets. They were neatly folded, beneath her toothbrush. On each was scrawled in her handwriting the name of an heirloom, a cameo brooch from my grandmother, a pair of jade cufflinks from my grandfather, even Mom's wedding band. The dates were recent, some only days ago, each ticket showing a modest loan amount well below market value. Now, my heart sank. Mara, the woman I loved and trusted, was pawning our family's history, jewelry passed down for generations, just to fund a lifestyle I didn't know she couldn't afford. Fancy dinners, new designer bags, weekend getaways to bed and breakfasts. I'd thought I was treating her to happy memories. But now, I realized I'd been funding a secret that threatened to swallow us whole. That night, I confronted her gently in the living room, the pawn tickets spread like evidence on the coffee table. Mara's eyes filled with tears, and her composure cracked. "Mara, I'm sorry. I didn't know how else to make you happy. We'll find a way together, but we have to get those heirlooms back." She nodded, shame and relief mingling on her face. "I'll tell you everything." Over the next hour, Mara confessed the truth I dreaded yet somehow needed to hear. Her corporate salary had barely covered our mortgage, daycare, car payments, and student loans. She'd felt suffocated by small-town expectations and yearned for glamour. The bright lights on Instagram, brunch photos with champagne, cocktails at rooftop bars. Mara, I thought I deserved more than Friday night pizza. So she had visited Golden Crescent Pawn and Jewelry, pawning each heirloom for quick cash, then quietly retrieving some, when she could, using side gigs she rarely mentioned. But the loans piled up faster than she could redeem. With interest, those pawn tickets became ticking time bombs. "You were borrowing against our past, Mara. How long?" "Mara, 6 months. I never meant to hide it, but I was ashamed. I'm so sorry." I pulled her into an embrace. That night, we vowed to reclaim every pawned treasure and to face our financial mess honestly. The next morning, after soothing talk with Mara and 2 strong cups of coffee, I sketched out a roadmap. Inventory and timing. We needed to compile all pawn tickets and note their expiration dates and interest rates. Fundraising. Identify how much we'd need to redeem each item. Jewelry loans, interest, and fees. And find the money. Cover story. We had to prevent our financial crisis from reaching family ears, at least until we'd righted the ship. Long-term solutions. Beyond redeeming heirlooms, we'd need a sustainable budget and possibly side income to avoid repeating this cycle. Armed with my laptop, I opened a spreadsheet and listed the 6 pawn tickets. Key totals were sobering. We needed $3,900 in the next 2 months, plus any late fees. Not impossible, but far more than we had in savings. Mara suggested tapping a 401k loan or our home equity line of credit, but I recoiled at the thought of more debt. Instead, we chose to sell unused assets. I listed my seldom-worn mountain bike and our 3rd car on Craigslist. Side gigs. I agreed to take freelance contract work, and Mara decided to revive a small baking side business she'd once run, selling specialty cupcakes to our neighbors. Tighten the belt. We canceled streaming subscriptions, paused dining out, and lowered our thermostat by 2 degrees. Within a week, I sold the bike for $350. Our car fetched $2,000 from a local buyer. Mara's cupcakes sold out their initial batch, netting $500 profit. Together, we'd covered half the redemption requirement, and we were just getting started. The first redemption, grandmother's brooch. Armed with $1,850, Mara and I drove to Golden Crescent Pawn and Jewelry on a rainy Saturday morning. The shop's neon sign flickered above a dusty display window packed with estate jewelry and musical instruments. Inside, Pawnbroker Mr. Vega, a round-faced man with silver-streaked hair, greeted us. Mr. Vega, here for the brooch? Mara stepped forward, hands shaking. Yes, it's my grandmother's. How much do we owe? He handed her a printed ticket. $750 total due. Mara sighed and counted out crisp bills. As Vega retrieved the brooch, a delicate cameo set in gold, I felt a surge of relief. The brooch gleamed in the display case, safe once more in our possession. Mr. Vega, you have 3 months for the cufflinks next. Mara tucked the brooch into her bag. We left, the weight of that first success buoying our spirits. Back home, I stashed the brooch in a lockbox and asked Mara about the remaining tickets. She handed me 5 more, but there was a 7th ticket taped to her journal, one we hadn't counted. It corresponded to a diamond wedding necklace my mother-in-law had given her upon our marriage, intended as a symbol of unity. The principal was $1,200, nearly a third of our total debt, and expired in just 2 weeks. I stared at the ticket, heart pounding. Mara's eyes filled with tears. Mara, I thought I could handle the others first, but I was terrified. We can do this, but it means more hustling, more sacrifice. We doubled down. I negotiated a second freelance client, bringing in another $800. Mara baked every weekend, netting $600 more. Together, we scraped the funds by the week before expiry. On the Tuesday before the deadline, we returned to Golden Crescent. Vega counted out $1,260, including fees. As he handed Mara the necklace, he nodded knowingly. Mr. Vega, you two make a good team. We smiled, exhausted but triumphant. With the brooch and necklace back, 4 heirlooms still lay in pawn. We had the funds, or could work for them, but each redemption felt like a race against time. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I sensed there was more to this story. Why had Mara felt so desperate? Why hide from me? And could our newfound teamwork withstand the pressure of the next deadlines? Tomorrow, we would tackle the remaining pawned treasures, and I would learn how far my wife had gone to fund her secret indulgences. The path ahead would test our love, our resilience, and our commitment to reclaiming not just our heirlooms, but our trust. Update 1. The morning after redeeming the brooch and necklace, Mara and I awoke exhausted but determined. 4 heirlooms remained in pawn: the cufflinks, wedding band, pearl ring, and heirloom locket. Their expiry dates loomed like dark clouds, so we mapped out our schedule. Cufflinks, due June 2nd, $540. Wedding band, due June 15th, $960. Pearl ring, due July 1st, $330. Locket, due July 12th, $770. Total, $2,600 over the next 5 weeks. First up was the cufflinks. Mara slipped them into her purse, and we headed to Golden Crescent. As Mr. Vega rang up the $540, Mara's grip tightened on the counter. Mr. Vega, you're doing great. Only 3 left, right? Mara, that's right. When we returned home, I asked gently, how did you get the money last time? She hesitated, then admitted, Mara, I borrowed $1,000 against my 401k without telling you. I thought I'd catch up with cupcake sales, but I've fallen behind on loan payments. My heart sank. Not only had she pawned heirlooms, but she'd also hidden a retirement loan, risking penalties and taxes. Mara, we need full transparency, every penny and every obligation. She nodded, tears in her eyes, and pulled out her laptop. Together, we tallied. 401k loan balance, $1,020, due in 2 months. Cupcake supplies on credit card, $320. Pawn ticket obligations, $2,600. We were in deeper than I'd thought. Over $3,900 in immediate debt, plus looming 401k loan payments. But at least now we knew the full picture. Determined, I researched local gig platforms that afternoon. Within an hour, I'd signed up as a rideshare driver, carving out evening shifts. Mara revamped her baking menu, adding savory quiches and custom party cakes, and posted on neighborhood Facebook groups. By week's end, our earnings were promising. Rideshare income, $400 net. Baking orders, $300. Armed with $700, we drove to pawn the pearl ring. As Vega handed over the $330 due, I noticed him eyeing Mara. "Mr. Vega, your wife's talent is impressive. Business has quieted. If you ever need help with a fast loan, call me directly." His words hinted at a deeper relationship between him and Mara, something I'd revisit later. But for now, I focused on redeeming the heirloom, slipping the pearl ring into its velvet box with grateful relief. 2 days later, I claimed the locket with $770 in hand, but when Mara checked her purse, a small envelope was missing, the pawn ticket itself. Panic seized her. "Mara, the ticket. Without it, they won't release the locket." We retraced our steps. My car, the shop counter, the cafe where we'd grabbed coffee. No luck. The ticket had vanished. Without it, we'd lose the locket permanently. Me, let's talk to Mr. Vega. That afternoon, we returned to the pawn shop. I explained the missing ticket to Vega, who frowned. "Mr. Vega, pawn tickets are required, but I do recall someone paying for both locket and ring together. Maybe you combined them?" He rifled through his loose note drawer and pulled out 2 faded stubs, one for the locket, one for the ring, both initially loaned on May 12th. It seemed Mara had accidentally swapped or misfiled them. Grateful, she paid the $770 and the locket was back in our hands. Back home, reviewing Vega's unprompted advice, "Call me for a fast loan," I grew suspicious. I confronted Mara gently. "Me, why did he single you out?" Mara's cheeks reddened. I confided in him when I was desperate. He offered a quick ladder loan at high interest, which I refused. "But he's been watching and judging." Me, "He's more than a pawnbroker, he's your confidant." Mara nodded reluctantly. "He's been my secret ally ever since my first pawn. He let me redeem on deferred interest sometimes." This revelation stung. While I'd been grinding for every dollar, Mara had been leaning on Vega's unofficial leniency, an uneven partnership that risked exploiting our heirlooms a second time. Rallying the final funds. With the cufflinks, brooch, necklace, pearl ring, and locket back, only the wedding band remained, $960 due on June 15th. We had 2 weeks, but only $800 in cash. Time to dig deeper. I picked up daytime temp work at a local warehouse for 2 mornings, earning $250. Mara held a flash sale on Instagram, heirloom cupcakes, netting another $300. Together, we had $1,350, enough to cover the $960 and leave a cushion for late fees. On June 14th, we arrived at Golden Crescent one last time. Vega recognized us immediately. "Mr. Vega, final piece of the puzzle?" Mara nodded, handing him the cash. He retrieved the wedding band, an elegant platinum ring with a small diamond, and returned it with a solemn nod. "Mr. Vega, guard this one well." We left the shop, the full arsenal of heirlooms safe again. As we walked to the car, Mara slipped her hand into mine. "Mara, we did it. Together." I smiled, relief and pride swelling. But the heavy truth remained. Our marriage had weathered a storm of secrets, debts, and unspoken fears. The road to redemption had united us, but only honest communication would keep us afloat from here on. That evening, as I counted the last receipts and logged final payments, my phone buzzed with a text from Mr. Vega. "Meet me tomorrow at noon. I have an offer that could help you both and protect your heirlooms in the future. GV." Intrigued and wary, I showed Mara the message. "Mara, he's not just a pawnbroker. He sees potential in us. Maybe he can legitimize her baking business, or even invest in a family trust." Me, "Let's hear him out." Though I'd hatched a plan to rescue our legacy, Vega's unexpected outreach suggested a new chapter, one that might transform our salvaged heirlooms into a safeguarded family trust. Tomorrow, we would decide if the Pawnshop ally could become our partner in preserving our past and funding our future. Update 2. The next day at noon, Mara and I arrived at Golden Crescent Pawn Jewelry to meet Mr. Vega. I half expected a sales pitch for predatory loans, but Vega greeted us in a quiet back office, the usual display noise muffled by a thick curtain. "Mr. Vega, thank you for coming. I've watched the two of you tackle each redemption with determination. It reminded me of my own family's struggles. I want to help you protect these heirlooms, permanently." He slid a folder across the desk. Inside was a draft agreement for the Reynolds Family Trust, a legal structure that would hold and insure all heirlooms under a single entity, managed by both of us as co-trustees with protective clauses against sale or pawn. Mr. Vega, I've partnered with a trust attorney, flat fee, no hidden costs. For an initial setup of $1,200, you can secure all 6 heirlooms forever. Any growth in value or future acquisitions can be added without extra fees. Mara's eyes widened. $1,200 was steep, but far less than the cumulative interest we'd paid. I flipped through the draft. Trust assets, grandmother's brooch, grandfather's cufflinks, mother's wedding band, great-aunt's pearl ring, heirloom locket, vintage signet ring, trustees, Clara and Mara Reynolds, protections. No distributions, pledges, or encumbrances without dual consent. Successor trustees, appointed child beneficiaries to inherit the trust intact. Me, what about our twins? Vega nodded. You're naming them as successors, but they'll only assume control at age 30 with the same dual consent safeguards. That keeps your family legacy safe for generations. Mara leaned close. I love this, but what about privacy? I don't want everyone knowing we nearly lost these heirlooms. Vega smiled. The trust is fully private. Only you and your designated attorney see the documents. I function as a non-fiduciary notary. No client lists, no public filings. I asked about future additions. Me, if we find more heirlooms, can we add them? Mr. Vega, absolutely. The trust is modular. You send me the new asset details and a $50 administrative fee, and it's covered. Mara and I glanced at each other. The cost seemed worthwhile. A one-time $1,200 to secure thousands of dollars worth of family history forever. Mara, we'll do it. Me, let's proceed. Vega shook hands with both of us. I'll have the final documents drawn up by tomorrow afternoon. We can sign and fund the trust by week's end. Back home, we tallied our remaining unallocated funds. After the heirloom redemptions and side gig earnings, we had just over $1,500 in our emergency stash. Covering the $1,200 setup left a $300 buffer, plenty for minor fuel or supplies. That evening, I transferred the funds to Vega's escrow account. Within hours, he confirmed receipt. Mr. Vega, funds received. Documents will be ready tomorrow at 3 p.m. Mara and I sighed with relief. The final redemption anxiety was over. Our heirlooms would be safeguarded in trust, beyond any pawnshop's reach. At 3 p.m. the next day, we returned to Vega's office. He'd printed 2 identical trust agreements, each requiring our signatures and notarization. Vega reviewed the key clauses one last time. Irrevocable protection. Trust assets may not be sold, pledged, or encumbered. Dual consent rule. Both trustees must agree in writing for any action. Successor provisions. Upon incapacity, named successors assume co-trusteeship. He then notarized our signatures and handed us bound copies. Mara held hers close, tears in her eyes. Mara, we did it. For our mothers, for our future children. Me. And for ourselves, no more secrets. We left Golden Crescent that afternoon with a sense of closure. The trust was active, the heirlooms safe, and our partnership stronger. That evening at home, we displayed a single heirloom at a time in our living room, each sitting under a protective glass case with a small plaque noting its place in the trust. As Mara recounted the brooch's story and I polished the cufflinks, we realized how disconnected we'd been from our family history. The process of redemption, and now protection, had rekindled our appreciation for those who came before us. Me. We've turned crisis into commemoration, Mara, and built something lasting, the trust's unexpected benefit. Days later, Vega called with good news. Mr. Vega, I've arranged a preferred rate loan program for trust beneficiaries. Should you ever need emergency cash, the trust assets can back a loan up to 50% of their insured value, subject to your dual consent rule. I realized this structure gave us optional liquidity without direct sale or pawn, an elegant safety net. Me. That's brilliant. Mara, we don't have to lose our legacy, even in a pinch. In the weeks that followed, we met with our estate attorney, drafted guardianship letters for our twins as successor trustees, and recorded short video messages explaining the trust's purpose. We installed a small safe in our bedroom to hold the trust documents, separate from any bank or attorney vault, ensuring we always had physical access. The process drew us closer. Nightly, we'd share a cup of tea and discuss which family stories to include in a trust booklet. A small genealogy we'd attach to the trust so future heirs knew the meaning behind each item. As a final touch, Mara planned a surprise anniversary gift, a custom book filled with photos of each heirloom, the redemption story, and blank pages for future editions. On our anniversary, she presented it with a flourish. Mara. Now, not only are the heirlooms safe, they have their own storybook. I flipped through the pages, tears welling. Each chapter chronicled a near loss and a triumph of love and partnership. Me. This is the best gift I could imagine. We embraced the trust booklet and heirlooms around us, a tangible reminder of how crisis had strengthened our bond. Update 3. With the Reynolds family trust fully executed, Mara and I felt a renewed sense of security around our heirlooms and around our marriage. Yet the broader challenges of our finances remained. Over coffee that Saturday morning, we reviewed our budget and remaining obligations. 401k loan repayment, $1,020 due in 6 weeks, cupcake supplies debt, $320 on credit card, interest accruing, household emergency fund, depleted to $150, monthly shortfall, $500, mortgage, bills, daycare. We needed not just one-off fixes, but a sustainable plan. I proposed a 3-pronged approach. Emergency line of credit, open a secured HELOC against our home's equity. Not to fund lifestyle, but to keep it zero unless true emergencies arise. Side income consolidation. Formalize Mara's baking into a fully licensed home bakery, complete with a simple website and regular orders, aiming to net $1,000 per month. Retirement repayment plan. Automate small weekly payments from my paycheck to repay the 401k loan, avoiding interest and tax penalties. Mara researched local credit unions, finding one offering a 4.5% HELOC. We applied that morning. Meanwhile, I contacted our county's health inspection office and secured a home bakery license for her. By Monday, Dunkin' Batter Bakery was live online. Mara posted photos of her signature flavors: lemon blueberry cupcakes, salted caramel brownies, seasonal fruit tarts. Orders trickled in. Neighbors, co-workers, local cafes. Within 2 weeks, sales stabilized at weekly baking revenue, $350. Cost of supplies, $200. Net, $150. It wasn't a windfall, but combined with my rideshare evenings, net $200 per week. We now had $350 extra per week to allocate. $100 right-pointing arrow 401k loan, $100 right-pointing arrow credit card debt, $50 right-pointing arrow rebuild emergency fund, remainder saved or used for household needs. Our HELOC approved at $30,000, far more than we'd ever need. We vowed not to draw on it except for true emergencies, home repairs, medical bills, or unexpected unemployment. Simply having that backstop eased our stress. We wrote a family financial charter. Charter rule number 1, no pawning of heirlooms ever. Charter rule number 2, trust withdrawals only for documented emergencies. Charter rule number 3, all major expenses require joint approval and 2-week notice. We framed the charter on the fridge, a daily reminder of our new commitment. 2 months later, Mara received an urgent call. Her mother's car broke down, leaving her stranded 150 miles away. The repair estimate was $800, more than Mara's immediate cash. Rather than pawn an heirloom or tap credit, we considered the trust's preferred rate loan, up to 50% of insured value, at 3% interest, repayable within 1 year with dual consent. Over a dinner of homemade pasta, we weighed options. Option A, draw from HELOC, immediate but reduces emergency buffer. Option B, use trust loan, leaves HELOC intact, preserves emergencies, but requires formal documentation. We chose the trust loan. That evening, I emailed Mr. Vega. Request, trust-backed loan of $800 for emergency vehicle repair, approved by both trustees Clara and Mara. By the next morning, the funds hit our account. Mara's mother's car was fixed. Mara delivered cupcakes as promised. We repaid the loan $70 per week over 12 weeks, with $84 total interest. The process was simple, transparent, and saved our heirlooms from any risk. Meanwhile, our automated repayments to the 401k hit on schedule. After 6 weeks of $50 per week, the loan was fully repaid. Mara and I celebrated by adding $100 to our emergency fund, boosting it to $700. Mara, I can't believe we're debt-free for the first time in years. Me, we earned it together. With bakery income and rideshare work steady, we turned to rebuilding a 3-month emergency cushion, $12,000 for our family's living expenses. Over the next 3 months, by allocating $200 per week, we gradually approached $10,000. We resisted lifestyle inflation. Friday night takeout became homemade tacos. Date nights at home featured movie marathons. Instead of a weekend getaway, we opted for local hikes, a family testament. One quiet afternoon, Mara and I sat in the backyard, heirloom brooch pinned to her blouse, wedding band on her finger, locket around her neck. The trust documents lay beside us, sunlit and sealed. Mara, I nearly lost my sense of self, chasing someone I thought I wanted to be, me. And I learned to look after us, to value our past and safeguard our future. We drafted an addendum to the trust, a family testament, a brief letter to our twins explaining why the trust was established, what each heirloom meant, and the financial lessons we'd learned. We sealed it in a decorative envelope to place alongside the trust documents. Finally, we set annual goals. Education fund. Contribute $1,000 per year to a 529 plan for each twin. Vault expansion. Add any meaningful new family heirlooms, photographs, letters, mementos, into the trust. Charitable giving. Allocate 1% of bakery profits to local history preservation societies. As summer turned to fall, our financial health and marital trust flourished. The pawnshop crisis, once a riddle of shame, became the catalyst for lasting change. Update 4. Autumn arrived with crisp mornings and an unexpected test of our financial safeguards. One Saturday, Mara's phone buzzed with news. Our twins' daycare had a sudden closing. An outbreak required immediate relocation to a backup facility, charging $1,200 for the month on short notice. We reviewed our financial charter. Charter Rule Number 1, no pawning heirlooms. Charter Rule Number 2, trust loans for documented emergencies. Charter Rule Number 3, joint approval for major expenses. This closure qualified. We convened at the kitchen table, trust documents and budgeting spreadsheet open. Me. We have 3 options: HELOC, emergency fund, or trust loan. Mara. Our emergency fund is at $10,000. Enough. But should we use the trust loan to preserve the fund? I considered. The HELOC was too precious to touch. The emergency fund covered living costs, but dipping into it risked eroding our safety net. The trust loan charged only 3% interest, repayable over a year, and wouldn't jeopardize the emergency cushion. Me. Let's use the trust loan, $1,200 at 3%. Then we repay $100 per month for 12 months. Mara. Agreed. It's why we set it up. We emailed Mr. Vega, citing dual consent rule, and by Monday, the funds were deposited. With the trust loan, we enrolled the twins in the backup daycare. The facility was reputable, with small class sizes, and our children adapted quickly. Having handled the emergency transparently, we regained peace of mind. No frantic scrambling, no hidden debts. We structured the $1,200 into our budget. Trust loan repayment, $100 per month. Baking business surplus, $150 per month applied to loan. Rideshare extra shifts, $50 per month applied. Within 6 months, the daycare loan was fully repaid, with $12 interest paid. Meanwhile, our emergency fund remained intact at $10,000. A glimpse at legacy planning. Buoyed by handling this crisis, Mara and I revisited our long-term goals. Over Sunday brunch, we discussed grandchildren education, ensuring our twins' 529 plans cover not only college but trade and tech certifications. Heirloom expansion, gathering family letters, wartime medals, and vintage photographs for the trust. Home renovation fund, replacing our aged HVAC system, estimated $8,000 via the HELOC, but only if other funds prove insufficient. We realized our trust and charter offered flexibility without fear, each tool reserved for its purpose. The daycare incident underscored proactive planning. Setting up the trust and charter before emergencies ensured swift, shame-free responses. Dual consent discipline, shared decisions prevented panic spending. Trust as shield. Leveraging trust loans instead of high-interest credit, or pawning saved heirlooms and our emergency fund. As Halloween lights appeared, we picked out costumes for the twins without worry, just joy. That November, Mr. Vega surprised us with a holiday card and an envelope containing a $500 check. Mr. Vega's note: for baking supplies or unexpected treats, my gift to the Reynolds family, appreciating your trust in me. Touched, Mara deposited $300 into the bakery account and tucked $200 into our emergency fund. Vega's gesture reaffirmed our partnership. He'd evolved from pawnbroker to family ally. As winter settled in, our finances stood stronger than ever. Emergency fund robust, debts cleared, trust in place, legacy goals charted. Yet I knew Update 5 awaited, a culminating test of our systems, and the final reflection on how pawn tickets led us to financial resilience and marital renewal. Update 5. As December arrived, the Reynolds household buzzed with holiday cheer. Twinkling lights, cinnamon-scented candles, and the twins practicing jingle bells. Yet beneath the festive veneer, a final challenge loomed: a medical scare for little Emma. On a frigid evening before Christmas, Emma awoke crying in pain. A sharp fever and swollen ear signaled a possible ear infection. At midnight, I bundled her into the car and raced to the 24-hour clinic. The doctor confirmed a serious middle ear infection requiring an immediate specialist consultation and an ear tube procedure, costing $1,800 out of pocket, not fully covered by our insurance until we met the deductible. Back home with a prescription and a procedure estimate, Mara and I consulted our financial charter. Rule number 2. Trust loans for documented emergencies. Rule number 3. Joint approval required. We used our routine family health category to define this as an emergency. Instead of tapping our cash reserve, which we preferred to safeguard for non-medical crises, we opted for a trust-backed loan. Amount: $1,800. Term: 12 months. Interest: 3%. Simple. Repayment: $150 per month. That morning, I sent Mr. Vega the formal dual consent email. By afternoon, the funds were wired. Emma's surgery was scheduled before New Year's Day. The next week was a whirlwind. Days off work for appointment coordination, adjusting baking and rideshare schedules around clinic hours, and nightly research on post-op care. With the trust loan in place, our emergency fund remained intact. No need to drain our holiday savings. Emma's procedure was a success. As she groggily held her favorite teddy on the ride home, Mara and I exchanged relieved smiles. The trust loan had turned a potential crisis into a manageable event. Repayment and reflection. In the weeks following Emma's procedure, we adjusted our budget. Trust loan repayment, $150 per month. Baking surplus, $100 per month. Rideshare tip earnings, $50 per month. By March's end, the medical loan was repaid, $1,854 total, $54 interest. Throughout, our emergency fund remained robust at $10,000, our HELOC untouched, and our marriage strengthened by transparent decision-making. That spring, we gathered the twins, mom, and siblings for an unveiling ceremony in our living room. Under a ribbon-draped display, each heirloom rested in its protective case, accompanied by our family testament booklet. We read passages aloud. These treasures connect us to those who came before. May they inspire you to honor our family's history with integrity and love. The twins placed handprints in a plaster mold, symbolizing the next generation's commitment to stewardship. With the Christmas medical emergency behind us and all trust loans repaid, we achieved 0 high-interest debts, 401k loan, credit cards, pawn debts, completely cleared, emergency fund, $10,000, 6 months expenses. HELOC, available for only true catastrophes. Side incomes, stable $1,400 per month, net from baking and rideshare. We celebrated our financial freedom with a simple picnic at the park, homemade sandwiches, thermos of cocoa, and laughter. Over the course of one transformative year, the pawnshop tickets that once symbolized betrayal became the catalysts for restoring precious heirlooms through strategic redemptions, building a legally protected trust to safeguard family history, establishing disciplined finances via a clear charter and side incomes, harnessing trust loans to manage emergencies without sacrificing legacy, fostering marital unity through transparency, teamwork, and shared purpose. In the end, the family's journey from shame to stewardship affirms that true legacy transcends objects. It resides in the trust, unity, and foresight we build together.